In a previous tutorial, I created these H elements here to show you how to use Emmet. These are not really quite complete for the demo I want to do right now. I want to show you how the box model works in HTML. So what I'd like to do is to add something to these lines, but remember, if I want to try to copy a line and do multiple line editing, then all of the lines have to be identical. So if I highlight all of this line and hit Control B, that'd be like boy, to select other lines, it won't let me because there are no other lines that are exactly like this one. This says H1, none of these others say H1. So what I have to do is find something in here that is the same. So this line is styled as, that's good enough. And so I see that in all of these lines. So I'm going to hit Control B, 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 B. And then I'm going to hit the right arrow. And I'm just going to slide over here. And right after the H1, H2, I'm going to add a space. So this line is styled as an H1 element, and period. And hit Escape to get out of multi-line editing mode. Hit Control S to save. And now you can see that all of these over here are styled exactly right as I see it here in what's called Live Preview. Okay, so what I want to do is to come up here to the head section, and I want to create some embedded styles. So I'm going to style, and come up into style. I want to scoot over a bit. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to define the width of the body element. I want the body element to be sure and be of a width right now of 100%. And that's no problem because that's what it is by default, but you'll see here in a moment why I do this. So Control S to save that. All right, so what I want to do now is come down right here below the body style rule, and I want to create a style rule that will cover all of the text elements, all of the inline elements that I'm going to create here to show you the box model. So I'm just going to start here with H1, comma, space, H2. I want the same rule to apply to all of these, H5 and H6. Put my curly brace, come down, and I want to put a border around all of these. I want the border to be 1 pixel, solid blue. Hit Control S to save. Now, when you look over in the live preview window, you can see that there is now a box, a bordered box, that's drawn around all of these elements. And you may be asking, well, why does the box go way out past the end of the text? Well, because that's the way the box element works. Everything that you type in your code that has block element styling built into the browser code is automatically going to be displayed as a rectangular block on the browser page. Now, if I come up to the body width here and change the 100% and say the width of the body of this page is only 50% and hit Control S, then you can see that everything responds to that. The width now of the rectangular box is going to be a width of 50% of this page. So let's go back up here for a moment to 50. Let's add it, how about 75, so we can see it clearly on our screen. There we go. And let's see if we can add some more kinds of elements down here. I'm going to come down, I'm going to hit a paragraph. Now, using Emmet, what I want to do inside of my paragraph is I want to put some text. Now, programmers and website builders, as they're developing websites or programs, a lot of times we like to use what's called lorem ipsum, L-O-R-E-M, I-P-S-U-M, lorem ipsum text. It's some old Latin text that really doesn't mean anything, but what it does is it gives us text on the screen, and it doesn't distract our eyes because we can't read it. The words don't mean anything to us, and so our eyes are able to focus upon the layout and not focus upon the content itself. Well, inside of Emmet, we have a feature here. So after my paragraph element, I'm saying inside of that paragraph element, give me lorem, And how about give me 50 words of lorem text? I'm going to hit Tab. All right, so now I've got that. I'm going to hit Control S to save. And you can see now that I have 50 words on the screen. I don't care about what it says because I can't read it anyway. But I'm going to come up here to the style rules, and after the 8.6, I'm going to comma and put a P for the paragraph element, Control S. And now you can see that, yes, a paragraph is also a block text. So if I come down under that, and let's put a block quote, and let's also add lorem of 50 in that, in Tab, Control S, you can see that what block quote does, block quote will automatically indent a certain margin over here and then align everything on the left, and it becomes like something that you quote. All right, we come up here now to the style rule, and let's go ahead and add a comma, space, block quote, Control S, and you'll see that, yes, it also is a block level element. So let's see if we can add some more here. Let's come down and let's add a UL, and how about just one LI element? All right, so there's a UL, and I'll put one item. Control S, and we can see this down here, one item. Well, if I come up to block quote up here, and I put comma UL, Control S, sure enough, we see that UL and OL elements are also block level elements. And why is that so important? Because notice that the width of the box that is built by the browser around the element itself is going to be whatever dimension that you give it. Since we told the browser that the default width for all of the body element is 75% of the entire viewport. That's what we call this. The viewport is that part of the browser that we can see whatever is being rendered by the browser. So right now, the body element is taking up 75% of the viewport. And therefore, all of these other things that are within the body element, see, body starts here, stops down here, everything we put in between, these are considered child elements. And so the children will inherit the style of its parent element unless we change it, as you'll see shortly. So right now, everything's taking up the 75%. Even the block quote element is taking up 75%. But remember, it's always indented a little bit from the left, a little bit from the right. And so it's having to make adjustments to fit within that 75%. If I come down to the LI element, let's say that we need to add another, let's add two more. So here's an LI, and I'll put LI times, how about 3? So there we go, we got 3. So I'll have item 2, item 3, item 4. And I could have done that with multi-line selectors, just didn't think about it. So Control S to save, and so now I have all of these over here. So I could come up here to the UL, and I could hit a comma, space, LI, and Control S, and you'll see that each of the LI elements fit within the UL box. So the UL has its box, and the LIs each have their own box. It's going to be a big thing later, because what if we wanted to put like an image or something over here? Well, you're going to have to change the widths and the layout, and you're going to create style rules for how wide you want that LI to be if you're going to put something else over here. Otherwise, all of this space right in here is taken up by that one element. So let's see what else we can add over here. One last one I want to look at is, we'll look at something called the Div Tag. You're going to be using this a lot. So inside of this Div Tag, let's go ahead and put another div that's got a lorem of 50. Control S to save that. So here we see that this paragraph inside of this div element over here has also the same, it looks exactly like the paragraph element up here without the div tab, the div tag. But let's say that we come up here and we're going to now change something from the default settings that we've already set. Let's say that anytime in our style rules, anytime we have a div with a paragraph element, then let's style this automatically. How about as margin left of, how about 30 pixels? All right. So now what we have is this section looks different than this paragraph up here. Notice up here that in my style rule, I said if I find a paragraph element, well, how come it didn't change this one over here up under the H elements? Well, it's because this is not a paragraph element that's inside of a div. And that's what this style rule means. It says, you always start reading these whenever you have like different selectors, descendant selectors, and sibling selectors. Anytime you have this, you always start reading from the right. So this means if I find a paragraph element that's inside of a div element. So this is a paragraph element here, and that's found right here. So this is a paragraph element, but it's not contained within a div. This is a paragraph element here, and it is contained within a div element. So the paragraph element here is a child of this div. And we've set up a rule that says if we have a div, and if that div contains a paragraph, then we want to make sure that it's always indented from the left margin by 30. One more thing I want to show you before we get into a couple of other issues. I want to show you that the box model doesn't just apply to like the entire paragraph element. So I could come in here, let's just take this crazy set of words right here that I have no idea what it means. Let's just take these 4 crazy words right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to we're going to wrap this line of code. Now here in brackets, what I'm going to show you, this is part of brackets, not part of emmet. But I'm going to hold down the Control and the Shift, and I'm going to hit the A key. After I've selected that text, Control-Shift-A, watch what happens at the bottom of the brackets window. It pops up, it says enter abbreviation. So I'm going to put span. And notice what it's trying to do up in the line. It's trying to add span. It won't accept that unless I hit enter. So I hit enter. And now this entire set of words right here is contained within these span tags. So I'm going to come up here to after UL and LI, comma, space, and let's add span to the list. Control S to save. Now come over and look right here in the browser window at Live Preview, and you can see that not only is there a rectangular box built around the entire paragraph, but since the text inside of the paragraph is also part of something that can be contained within a box, then it has a box around it too. So what we can do here is, let's come down and create a rule for us right here. Let's say that if I have a paragraph, and inside of that paragraph I have a span element, then let's add a style rule, and let's say that the style rule here is that it will have padding, and let's say padding right. We want it to be, how about 30 pixels? And padding left. How about let's add maybe 20 pixels. I could have used a shortcut for this, but let's just go with this. Control S. Now watch what happens to the box model around these 4 words when I hit Control S to save this file. Notice that it adds the padding inside of that box element. Oh, and I have a mistake here, don't I? Because right here, when I put padding right, notice I put a semicolon instead of a colon. Man, my eyes will go crazy watching those things. Control S to save. So now you can see that I'm getting the 25 pixels of padding inside of this rectangular box around this content and 30 pixels over here. And I'm getting those because what I have here is I have a span that's inside of a paragraph element. So if I come down here to the bottom somewhere, and how about, let's take this LI element right here, and let's put span around this one word right here. So Control Shift A, span, enter, Control S to save. Now, here you see that we have the box drawn around the first word, the word one, just like we see here in our code. We have span surrounding the word one, but notice that here the span element does not contain the padding to the left or to the right, because this is not a span element that is contained within a paragraph. And my style rule says if there is a span, then style it as this rule, but only if it's contained within a paragraph element.